creating some box plots in this video. The last video that you should have watched above this one if you're in my class is just kind of reading a box plot. How do you find the 5 points, the 5 boundary markers of a box plot? So let's look at creating one. I'm going to go over how to do this by hand first, and then we're going to just talk about how our calculator can help us. This is 7th grade content at this point, but we want to expand this to 9th grade content, and that's what we're going to try to get to real quick. So here's my data. It's already in order for you. Generally, data is not given to you in order. This is where I think our calculator is going to help us more so this year. But I'm just giving you to an order, and we need to find those 5 boundary markers, okay? First thing we need to do is make a number line, okay? And this number line has to go at least from our minimum to our maximum. So I guess the first point is to figure out what our minimum and maximum are. But if your data is in order, that should be really easy. You can see that our minimum is 5, and our maximum is 35. And so when we go to make our number line for that, we need to go from 5 to 35. You have to figure out how you're going to scale it. I'm going to go by ones. And here's the most important part. You have to make sure that everything on your number line is evenly spaced. You can't be like going number line like this and go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Don't make them all crazy lengths. They have to be it's called equidistance from each other. So all these, it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And so they're all equidistant from each other. All right? That's first and foremost because box plots show us a range on our data, and that needs to be there. All right, so I've got my minimum to my maximum, 5 to 35. Those points are good to go. And this is something you should know from 7th grade, is finding the median. Okay, that's what we're going to go and find first. So how do you find the median? Well, this is how I'm going to find the median. I'm going to just kind of cut off one side at a time. So I got one here, I'm going to cut off one here, I'm going to cut off one here, and I'm going to cut off one here, and I'm going to keep going. And this video is going to get really fast right about now. Okay, so here we are again. We're cutting the data in half, and it's always a good idea to go back and check that you've cut off the same amount of data on both sides. I've cut off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 off this side. I'm left with 2 numbers, and if you remember how to find the median between 2 numbers, it's fairly simple. We're going to cut in half right here. Well, what's a number between 14 and 14? Well, it would have to be 14. But the real way that you would find this is you'd have to say 14 plus 14 divided by 2, and that would give us 28 divided by 2, which is 14. That's the real way of finding the median. But if you can if you just, with your own brain, your brain power there, what's the number between 14 and 14? It's got to be 14, right? So our median here, let me erase that. Our median is cutting the data in half. So our median is 14, right? I'll even put median right here. All right, we already said that our minimum is right here, and our maximum is up here. Okay. All right, the next thing we want to do is find our other medians, our upper quartile and our lower quartile, or our first quartile and our second quartile. Third quartile. This is actually our second quartile as well. We need to go down here and find our first quartile, and then come up here and find our third quartile. And all we're going to do is find the median of this lower half, and then find the median of this upper half. So I'm going to erase this real quick, get this out of our way, and I'm just going to start cutting off again. Let's go for Q1, first quartile, or the lower quartile. Let's see here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is nice because now I can see right here, that's what's going to cut the data, the lower half in half. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mr. Nelson, isn't the minimum its own thing?
No, the minimum is not its own thing. The minimum is a boundary marker, but it's not the lowest thing here, as in it's part of the data still. Okay. So our Q1 is 10, and we're going to do the same thing for the upper half here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, that's nice. And so we have right here, get this out of my way.
And the maximum? How come the maximum?
The maximum is still part of the data. We're just saying, hey, that's the highest number in the data set. Same thing that goes for the minimum. Minimum is still the lowest number in the data set. So, with that being said, this is actually a really good point that Mr. Craig was making on the last video. Is we should have the same amount of data in each set, right? So we have our first quarter of our data, the second quarter of our data, the third quarter of our data, and the fourth in the last quarter of our data. And how many pieces of data are in each section? Well, we got 4, 4, 4, and 4. So we have 25% of our data in each section, right? And so now we're just going to be taking these points, our minimum, Q1, Q2, Q3, and our maximum, and we're going to put these down here on our number line. I'm just going to start by doing some dots, and then we'll talk about where does the box go, and then where do those whiskers go. So let's start with the minimum at 5. I'm going to put a dot above 5. I'm going to put a dot above 10 for our first quartile, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right here. We're also going to put a dot above 14, which is our second quartile, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then also above 17 for our third quartile, so 15, 16, 17 right there. And lastly, our maximum way up here with the maximum. Okay? Remember that our boxes, all right, let me just kind of do a quick sketch of what a box plot looks like. We have the minimum of Q1, Q2, or our median, Q3, and then our maximum, right? And so that's what our box plot ought to look like. We're going to start with a line from our minimum to our first quartile, and that's where our box starts. I like to do a box right down to the number line so it stays nice and neat, and I can see what number it's on. That box continues all the way to the third quartile, so right here. So we're going to continue that box right there. A line through the median, which in this case is at 14, and then a line all the way up to our maximum. And see, this is what really confuses students, is they see 4 pieces of data in each section, but then they say, well, this one has the most data, right? Because it's long. That doesn't have more data in it. It just has a wider range. Check this out. Like, think of this. How do you get, what's the distance between 5 and 10? It's just 5, right? How do you go from 10 to 14? That's only a distance of 4. From 14 to 17, that's only a distance of 3. But from 17 to 35, that's a very long distance, right? That's a longer distance than these ones. These all look about the same length here. But this one's really long because it's just showing the range between the third quartile and the maximum. That's a much longer length. And that's what a box plot shows. It shows us the range of each of these quarters of data. Okay. So let's jump over to a calculator really quick. We're going to show you, if you have a TI-73, a blue calculator. If you don't, you can always come check them out. But there's also calculators that are online that you can do this. Just go onto Google or whatever your search engine is and type in box plot calculator, and it'll help you with that. If you're in our class, though, or if you have a TI-73, we're going to show you how to type in the data. Yeah, first thing you should always do is reset your calculator because you don't know who's done what on it earlier. The way you do that is go second and then 0, and then you're going to go to 7, which is reset. You can just click 7, and then 1, which is for all RAM, and then 3 for 2 for reset. So second 0, 7, 1, 2 will get you a reset really fast. Second 0, 7, 1, 2. All right, once that has been cleared, we are going to type all this data, which I already know is in order for you. But the great thing about your calculator is it doesn't matter if you put it in order. We're going to go over here and click on list, and then we are going to type in our data one row at a time. And this is where we'll go a little slow at first. We're going to type in 5, then 7, hit enter, then 7, and then 7 again. And we're going to keep on doing this with all of the data until we're done. And here goes the fast forward. All right, so once all your data is entered into a list here, we usually just go with list 1. We are going to run some data on it. And basically what we're going to ask the calculator to do for us is to find those 5 boundary markers. The way that we do that is we need to go to the stats option, which is in yellow, so we have to hit second list. We are going to go all the way over to the calc option by hitting the right arrow. And we are going to do 1 var stats, which is option 1. Just hit enter and hit enter again so that it actually runs it. And we have all this cool stuff listed out for us that we're going to use later. But if we scroll down, we have everything we need. We're told n equals 30 is actually the number of data points we have. Then we have the minimum, Q1, the median, which is Q2, Q3, and the maximum here. All right, so once we have all this data, we can just go ahead and make our number line. First off, we need to make our number line from minimum to maximum, which is 5 to 28. You can go by ones. Do we have a number line on this one?
No, we do.
I'm going to go from 0 to 30, which is okay. It covers from our minimum, which is 5, up to 28. So let's go with that. And then we're just going to plot these points and then do our box and whisker plot. Should be pretty quick. So let's put points above a point above our minimum, which is 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Woo, right there. We've got
the number line above it, remember.
Yeah, do it above it, right? Eventually we're gonna bring the box down and then, right? So we have to make sure that those dots are through the middle. So we got our first on the minimum, our next quartile, which is 8, so 5, 6, 7, 8 right here. Median is at 10. We got a Q3 at 12, and our maximum all the way at 28, which is about right here. Remember how box plots work. The middle 3 dots are your box.
So your quartiles all get a line up and down.
Yep.
And your minimum, your max, are your whiskers.
Yep. Line for the median, and the minimum, put a whisker, and out to the maximum, put a whisker. That's box plots. Pretty easy. I think we have one more to go. All right, so you guys are going to stop and push pause, and you're going to try this one on your own. Whether you have a TI-73 or not, you can go to Google and just type in a box plot calculator, and it'll find those points for you as well. So go ahead, pause the video, and give that a shot. All right, so first things first, it's a good idea just to reset your calculator. Make sure you clear out all the previous data. If you're using a different calculator, go into your list and start typing your data in, which we'll fast forward this video right here to do that. All right, so once your data is all in, we're just going to keep on going through the TI-73 and how to get there. We need to do one var stats again. So we're going to hit second, list, to go into the stats menu, and then we're going to go over to calc for the calculation menu, and we are going to run the one var stats. So you just click enter, and then you got to click enter again to tell it to do it. Scroll on down for all that lovely information. N is the number of data points you've got, and we've counted 17 here, and this does line up, so I didn't miss any data points. And then the minimum all the way through the maximum. And this one doesn't have it, so I'm going to have to draw this number line. So, all right, so we're going to do it a little bit different here. We're going to change up the number line, and sometimes it's just really hard to fit all the numbers on your number line, so we're going to do some guesstimation. We're going to start at 70 here. We're going to go to 75, 80, 85.
I'm trying to get out your way, but I missed this up there. Sorry.
90, 95, and 100, I guess. So that's what we're going to have to do for this number line. Just because there's just so many numbers, sometimes it just makes sense to kind of get things squished together. Just make sure that these are all the same intervals, right? So I'm increasing by 5 each time. And we got our minimum point here at 71. So I'm going to put a point about what 71 would be. So about right here. And then at the Q1, 74.5, which would be almost 75. Here at 84, which is just short of 85. We can bring that this way a little bit. And then our Q3 at 89.5 for 90, and our maximum at 98, which is just short of 100. And then we do our box whisker plot. Box goes around the middle 3 because those are our quartiles. From Q1 to Q3, this is Q2 or our median. A whisker down to our minimum and up to our maximum. And again, that kind of shows the spread of the data. You see a little bit more spread here between Q1 and Q2. And then these two are kind of about the same spread, and then this one also has a larger spread up here as well. But there's the same amount of data. What's really important about this is that there's the same amount of data in each of these. 25% here, 25% here, 25% here, and 25% of the data is there as well. So go ahead and try those box plots down below, give them a shot, and good luck.